What's up, gamers? It's Absurd here, and boy, has it been a busy weekend. For the past couple of days, I've been taking in all the new community theories regarding the Armored Core story trailer. There's some wild theories out there right now, but also some reliable ones. I've also gone through all the old AC6 material to gather context for the new trailer. In this video, I'll be addressing some of the popular theories and questions in the community and providing some of my own. So let's start, as I typically do, with the most evidence-based theories. In my last video, a viewer named Chronoton asked if the AC from the reveal trailer might be 617, as it appears to be salvaging an arm part from some wreckage. I'd previously assumed this to be a worker MT doing some cleanup, but on closer inspection, it is indeed the exact same AC model as 617, and we never see its left arm. The part it picks up is definitely a left arm part, identical to the currently equipped right arm part. The leg parts look identical as well. This is huge because it could confirm the theory that 617 survived the fight and is still out there on Rubicon. What's more interesting is that 617 appears to be a wandering scavenger with their whole life packed on the back of their AC, which means Walter's control over his hounds isn't 100% secure. We don't know that 617 and 621 are augmented in the same way, but if they are, it means that 621 could potentially break from Walter's control as well. I think they do have the same augmentation because the scientist refers to 621 casually as this one, implying that 621 is like his previous products, 617 through 620. This comment also suggests that 621 is an individual. I've seen people saying that 621 is 617 recovered from the battlefield, which, based on what I just covered, doesn't seem as likely. The theory is that since the pilots are named after the model number on the core part, 617 and 621 could be the same individual, but in a new core. The name would change to reflect the new model number. It makes sense, and I had the same thought written into this script before I looked into Chronoton's comment about the AC in the reveal trailer. Now it seems very clear that 617 was never recovered by Walter, which is unfortunate due to how well this theory synergizes with the "borrowed wings" quote at the end of the gameplay trailer. Although I think that synergy only really works if the player is 621, which is very likely, but not a sure thing. The next theories are about what role the human body plays with regards to the AC, especially in the context of the cerebral coral control device, as these two seem to be connected. We still don't know whether the control device is referring to control of the AC or Walter's control over the pilot, or both, but if it means control of the pilot, it also means that control has its limits because of 617 operating as an independent scavenger in the reveal trailer, apparently. If it means control of the AC, then we get into the debate of whether that control is remote, the pilot physically inhabits the AC, or if the mind is uploaded into the machine. Remote control does not seem practical at all to me. If Walter's hounds are kept in storage somewhere remotely controlling their ACs, it would offer no real possibility of breaking his control in the long term. Walter would simply destroy those frail bodies at the hint that they are a liability to him. It would mean his hounds have zero agency, and as mentioned above, 617 apparently has enough agency to go independent. What's a little harder to determine is whether the body resides in the AC or the mind is uploaded to the AC. First of all, the vital signs of 619 are mentioned when it is destroyed in the trailer, implying the pilots retain vital biological functions. And if you look at how the body of 621 is treated in the trailer, with needles inserted all over the body, coral being infused into it, and the heat lamps radiating it, It suggests that the physical body is important to the process. If it was as elegant as uploading the mind to the machine, the mind would be the focus, not the entire body. But I'm not a mad scientist, so who knows? I've also seen people wondering whether the pilot is essentially a corpse in the machine or whether it regains functionality, and this one requires a bit more speculation. I think these pilots are in cold storage, frozen in cryo-sleep until they are awakened. I referred to heat lamps earlier, as I believe that's what these are in this clip, warming the body back up. The corpse-like complexion of the skin looks very similar to skin damaged by frostbite. The scientist says it's functional, but don't expect much, which could imply that 621 hasn't fully come out of the deep freeze yet, but eventually will, although perhaps with some ill effect. But even if this answers one question, it raises more. Like, why are the bodies kept frozen? Were they stored this way for the long interstellar travel to the Rubicon system? If so, where did they come from? Are they meant to be AC pilots, or were they kidnapped or stolen while in cryosleep and forced into this? Imagine falling asleep in preparation for a long trip, and then waking up in a cold garage with your body hooked into a hulking war machine. What a nightmare. Contrary to the cryo-sleep theory, I've seen people mention clones, and one commenter named Logan Gant7732 in my last video mentioned Golas from Dune, which are essentially clones, but they store the memories of all previous clones and have those memories awakened with properly induced stress. I really like the Gola theory, especially because we already have several confirmed nods to Dune. However, the only evidence I could find to support this theory was in the AC emblems from the Collector's Edition bundle. The orange Roman numeral 8 emblem depicts two connected fetuses. This imagery suggests twins if they were normal real-life fetuses, but could suggest clones, or in Dune terms, Golas. I don't find this evidence to be as convincing as the evidence for cryosleep, but the two theories are not mutually exclusive either. I'm interested to see how people build upon the clone theory going forward. Speaking of the emblems, having gone through them, I didn't find much new pertaining to the story trailer that I haven't discussed in previous videos. However, Emblem 6 does very much remind me of the corpse-like 621 and suggests that there are many like it, though I still can't tell or find any discussion about what the object hovering over those three bodies could be. Let me know in the comments what you think about that. What was obvious to most AC fans when these emblems were released was the conspicuous lack of a number 9 emblem, which brings us to 9-Ball. If you don't know, 9-Ball is a mass-produced AI-controlled AC model that was the final boss in the original Armored Core and returns for cameo appearances in many more of the games up through Last Raven. In Armored Core 4 Answer, the AC White Glint plays the role of a pseudo 9-Ball, being a very tough boss fight and also being ranked 9 in the arena, with the number 9 being a nod to 9-Ball. Fans are theorizing now that 621 is the new pseudo 9-Ball because 6 plus 2 plus 1 equals 9. And at this point I can't tell if it's a funny meme or if people are being serious. FromSoft does have a fixation around the number 9 in AC games. Even the new PvP info we have includes 2 teams of 3 players with 3 spectators. 3 plus 3 plus 3 equals 9. But what I find especially silly is the people saying we are 9-Ball. It's a funny joke between AC fans, but that's all. It would assume that the player is 621 first of all, but we also aren't an AI, though we are a mass-produced model of a sort. But more than that, if we are 9-Ball, who are we going to be afraid of? The power of 9-Ball is in our fear of the fight. It's in the goosebumps we get when the theme music starts playing and we know what's coming. FromSoft would never throw that potential drama away, but it is a good joke and a way to reappropriate 9-Ball as a coping mechanism for our past Armored Core traumas. But 9-Ball does bring up the topic of AI, which is a very common theme throughout Armored Core. One of the big questions I've had with regards to AC6 is why Walter is using these dominated shells of a human being as pilots at all, rather than using AI. In my video Dogs on a Leash, I mentioned that this was due to human desire to subjugate other humans and that whole power fantasy. And while I still think that's true, my view of Walter has changed a bit since the story trailer, so let's talk about him for a bit. I previously theorized that Walter is likely an AI based on the history of Armored Core, and this Discord post from a game journalist who said Walter is a shadowy figure who you do not see. At the time, I had not expected that statement to be so literal. Even though I do believe that this shadowy figure in the story trailer is Walter, the evidence is so strong I don't even want to waste your time with it. There is a possibility that FromSoft pulled some movie magic stunts to give us that impression as a red herring. I'm not going to explore those possibilities here, but I'll gladly discuss it in the comments, Discord, or Twitter. The links are in the description. But I do want to discuss Walter based on the assumption that he is this shadow in the trailer. He uses a cane, which suggests he could be disabled from an AC-related injury and may be a pilot himself. This emblem with a hand holding leads could very well belong to Walter's AC. He does lead a pack of hounds after all. I've also seen theories that he is missing his left arm, but if you look at the clip frame by frame, you can tell that he does have a left arm. Regardless, he has an obvious disability. It's also obvious that he has some control issues, but I still wonder about his motivation for using human dogs on Rubicon. I doubt someone like him is purely motivated by money. He has literal skin in the game if his disability is combat related. I thought again of the official art with the supercomputer. The AC in that image looks to have a very similar frame to that of Walter's dogs in the story trailer, which got me wondering, what if there is a massive AI on Rubicon and Walter wants to destroy it? Someone with control issues like him wouldn't be too fond of an AI controlling things like in past AC titles. Then I thought of the fires of Ibis on Rubicon, the coral disaster that devastated the system. Recall Ibis from Silent Line? Ibis was an AI controller. What if this is FromSoft's way of telling AC fans that the coral disaster was designed by an AI? This could give Walter a personal vendetta if he was involved on Rubicon at the time of the calamity. It could also give him a vendetta against extrastellar interests on Rubicon, which might incentivize him to kidnap space travelers and cryosleep and use them as tools for his motives rather than let them plunder his planet for its coral. My final thought on Walter is that he is not the big bad evil genius of this game. FromSoft has a history of obscuring the identity of the big bad until the very end, though they do often leave hints. But Walter is too obvious of a bad guy to be the big bad of the game, which means there is someone out there bigger and badder than him, likely someone we haven't seen. Finally, I want to talk about being a mercenary for a minute, because that has always been the core of Armored Core. The more I think about it, the less I think that we actually play as 621. Being a mercenary in Armored Core means choosing missions and building your own AC. I don't see how either of those are very practical if we are dominated under Walter's control. I know the evidence is strong for us working for Walter, but I don't see how that can be very sustainable without fundamentally changing the core components of what makes an AC game. We know there are multiple story options, so it's possible that the first playthrough might be a Walter playthrough that onboards us to the game with limited agency, while other playthroughs allow us to break Walter's control early and play more traditional Armored Core. I just don't see Walter giving us any agency to actually play as an independent mercenary, so either I've sorely misunderstood his character, or we are not one of his hounds, at least not for long. Be sure to let me know what you think about this aspect of the story and game, because it might be the most important thing I've discussed here. And with that, I'm going to try to get back to working on my Silent Line video, at least until I find something else to say about Armored Core 6. I'll see you next time, gamers.